Thank you so much for joining us for All Angles. I'm Dion Jackson Miller. We have two really topical and interesting issues for you on today's program. A little later in the program, we're going to be talking about the PNP's Paul Buchanan's attempt to challenge the election of Prime Minister Andrew Holness in the constituency of West Central St. Andrew. Court ruling came down this week, raising some really interesting and important points, so we're going to be breaking it down and talking a little bit more about that. First, though, another topic of the day, the JPS loan. Government of Jamaica lending $150 million US to JPS to help to restore electricity island-wide. There have been some questions, though, about the loan agreement and some of the implications, and I'm going to be talking in this segment of the program with the Shadow Minister on Energy, Philip Paulwell, also with economist Michael Mortley. Before that, though, let's take a little bit of a look at what has been happening on this. Now, Energy Minister Darrell Vaz made the announcement in Parliament on November 25. Take a look.
Mr. Speaker, let me just say it again. Based on the meeting that took place yesterday, we are confident, based on the meeting that had the representative of the Ministry of Finance at the highest level, the Minister and the Financial Secretary, you can't go any higher, that we are prepared to release the $150 million tonight if it means that the people are going to get back light sooner than later. They are wicked and evil. Bad mind don't go on yet from September 3rd.
Now, opposition members had some questions. Among those asking questions was opposition leader Mark Golding.
Jamaica has roughly 20% of the equity in JPS. The funding gap, based on the recently done work to do the restoration of the grid, including substations, transmission posts, etc., distribution lines, is around $350 million US. So our 20%, if you're looking at it as a shareholder, our 20% would be 70 million. But we are actually taking the risk of lending an unsecured loan to JPS of 150 million, which is twice the proportion of the equity that we hold in the business. So unsecured, if you have any collateral to seize, you're relying on a mechanism to get it back, which I'm going to speak to in a second. So my question to you is, first of all, the other 200 million, which is currently not funded, but which is necessary to achieve the timelines that you have indicated for restoration, what is the assurance that that 200 million will be raised on a timely basis so as to enable the necessary expenditures to be made by JPS to hit the targets, which are presumably fairly aggressive targets given the extent of the damage to the grid and so on? What level of confidence do you have that that 200 million will be raised by them? And what is the time frame that it has to be raised by for that target to be met? I'd like to know the time frame for that. Secondly, would we be disbursing our 150 before that 200 million is in place? Are we going to take the risk of lending that money to JPS?
All right, now the Energy Minister spoke earlier today at a press conference and continued to insist that this is the best deal for Jamaica.
Last Tuesday, I'd have made a statement outlining the decision of the government to lend the JPS $150 million US in relation to restoration, early restoration. This came on the basis that their projections were taking us to April, May, and possibly June 2026, based on their current cash flow. Let me indicate again that the loan was a decision recommended and supported by the Ministry of Finance and approved by Cabinet to lend the JPS the $150 million specifically to fast-track restoration, moving us from 82%, where we are now, to 90% by Christmas, New Year, and 100% by end of January. That would mean taking on 300 additional linesmen on top of the 170 that are here now. Without that money, the 170 linesmen would have been decommissioned this week, meaning that they would be decommissioned and have to leave because there would be no funding to pay them. So the $150 million goes towards keeping those 170 linesmen in Jamaica and adding another 300 linesmen. That comes with the equipment, the trucks, and all that you see currently on the road now that 170 linesmen are doing. That decision was made to get us out of having to give any sort of extension on the existing license.
Okay, and just by way of background, just to remind you that the JPS All Island license expires in 2027. The government had said in July that it was not going to be extending the license on the existing terms. Then came Melissa. Mr. Paul, let me start with you. The Energy Minister says on a wicked and bad mind, and you would be holding back the loan rather than allowing people to get back light. Why is the opposition digging down so much on this one?
Well, because I think the whole thing is quite confusing. And let me be clear. We want to see 100% restoration of electricity across Jamaica. But the minister needs to come clean and to explain without bluster. Why is it that he announced in Parliament that the country is going to, that the JPS is going to be required to find $350 million US. And out of that, the government of Jamaica will put up, by way of a loan, $150 million. So he said to us that for us to get to 100%, we have, the JPS has to find $350 million. The GOJ put up 150. He also said that because of his letter to the JPS, they can't go out there to find $1. So the question must be that when the government puts up its 150 million, where is the balance to come from to achieve 100% restoration? Because that's what we want. And that question has not been answered. We also asked as well, when this loan is to be repaid, he said that it has to be done in 2 years if the JPS license is not extended, and that it will be transferred and, to shares in the company, that it will be converted to shares in the company. How many shares will the government of Jamaica, on behalf of the people, be gaining from a non-payment of any amount of this loan? We don't know because there's no basis of valuation for those shares. So the whole thing is so murky. We don't know which agency of the state is going to be disbursing the loan and thereby be accountable to the people. So I think the minister, having made that statement on the 25th of November, and the Minister of Finance was unable to give those details yesterday in the Standing Finance Committee, I think the government now needs to come clean to the country and state exactly what are the details here, when will electricity be fully restored, how much money it will take. And I believe that these are reasonable questions, and the minister should not be labeling this as bad mind. We want to see the entire country fully restored.
Just before I got to Mr. Martley, the minister said earlier today at the press conference that JPS is now at 82% restoration. He said they've committed that over Christmas, New Year, the country will get to 90%. And this morning at the press conference, he said 100% by the end of January, early February. Before in Parliament, he had said major areas by end of January, February. So given that JPS has given this commitment, do we really need to look behind that? Isn't it? Could it not be said that it's their business where they're going to get the rest of the money from? And just to set our viewers as well, they did get another 50 million US from the OUR through a self-insurance fund, which was set up for that purpose. So do we really need to ask? No, for them business that.
No, it is our business that electricity is fully restored. And if we can't see a way for it to be done, we have to ask the question. We don't want when January come for people to be disappointed. And the fact is, if he said on the 25th of November, it will take 350 million. They have walked back 50 of that. So let us say 300 million. You are putting up 150. You must be able to speak of the other 150. If you are saying that the total bill is 350, it just doesn't make sense. And we are urging, therefore, for the government to explain to us where will JPS go get the balance. They said that the JPS cannot get $1 from the street. My own prediction is that the government of Jamaica will have to fund the entire thing. But why not say so upfront? It means a significant dent in the amount of money that will be available for the Jamaican people. You're talking about 24 plus 24, almost 50 billion Jamaican dollars out of our budget to fund the restoration, if in fact the minister is truthful about the total amount of money that is to do the job.
Let me bring him Mr. Martley here. Are there legitimate questions here?
Definitely. There are legitimate questions. I think one of the major issues is that the minister's statements have been a little bit disjointed. I think we can agree that there's a need for the restoration one. So important, we need to get persons restored. There have been more details forthcoming, at least in the last 2 days.
We've heard 5.5% interest rate.
So we have some information in terms of the actual loan agreement, but obviously we haven't seen the loan agreement. I don't think we're going to get to see the loan agreement for right now.
Why? Shouldn't we? Why we can't see it?
We should. However, there is something that the opposition leader said, Mr. Powell said, remember in this, Government of Jamaica is one, Government of Jamaica, but two, a 19.9% shareholder in JPS.
Minority shareholder.
Minority shareholder. But as a minority shareholder, you do have the ability to loan money to the company that you have interest in.
Right.
Now, because the Government of Jamaica is acting as shareholder, then the backers of the Government of Jamaica, who is the people, do deserve a right to know what the agreement is.
Right.
But
what have you agreed to on our behalf?
Exactly. But I think what the government is trying to do is balance, okay, the need is we need to get back electricity, and then we'll try to work out the details after that. That is where I think a lot of the contention is coming in, because we understand we need back light in the areas, because that provides significant costs that we're not seeing. Every day that business is down, every day that homeowners are down, government is losing money, JPS is losing money, people are losing money, and the faster you get that back is the faster we get back economic activity.
Right.
So there's that. There's another point that was raised in terms of the 24 billion. So the 24 billion J dollars or 150 million US dollars. From my perspective, it's a loan, which means that from a banker's perspective, the banker is going to look at, okay, can the company repay the loan? So just looking at the books,
can JPS pay us back?
Can JPS pay us back? Now, how corporate loans are usually set up is that you're not paying principal and interest same time. You just pay interest, and you're usually paying quarterly interest.
So can make money out of it.
So I did some maths. It's about $2 million per quarter. If it's $2 million US dollars per quarter, or about 336 million Jamaican dollars. That that JPS would have to find to pay us quarterly. Can they afford to pay it based on their most recent financials? They can. Now, the big question that the opposition is asking, and I guess a lot of people are asking, because the minister said, JPS said, because I think it's the minister said that JPS indicated that they need 350 million. We are putting up 150 to say, all right, you said it's going to cost 350. There could have been a case where government decided, okay, we're not going to give you any money, you know, and you kind of just have to figure it out. Now, that probably would have led to the timeline of the April, May, June 2026, which nobody would want. So I think it is a balancing act now to say, okay, if we give you this 150 and you meet these conditions, because the loan is stated as a conditional loan agreement, that they have to meet the said targets that they've committed to. So we heard 82% as of today, 90% as of Christmas, and then eventually it's going to get to 98, 99%. I don't like using 100% because we know that there are people that still don't have light, even when everybody is up. So from those perspectives, you look at it and say, the risk of it is, can you actually get back the reconnection? And if JPS can do some mighty work between December and January, then this, what it really is a government assurance. The government is saying, all right, we'll give you the money. And then on the back end now, they might be able to get additional funding from somewhere. Where, we don't know yet. Okay,
just before I go back to Mr. Paulwell, if the conditions of the loan are the restoration targets, isn't that illusory though? I mean, that's a face card. Because if we don't get any money already, whether they meet the targets or not, what?
So why we would need to see the actual loan agreement, and there are penalties. And there is a point that Mr. Paul raised, is they said it's backed by JPS assets. So if they don't pay, then
we have the assets, or
then we can take back a little more ownership. Now, I think from that perspective, it is more of a government bargaining chip, because you still have the ongoing agreement in the background and say, okay, we're doing this. And at the end of the day, JPS can still be the distributor, you know. But I think it's the terms they're trying to change. So I think government is actually trying to use a leverage position to say, no, we can afford to give you a loan. Let's see if you can do what you need to do, which might eventually cause some good things to happen when the negotiations start.
All right, I'll tell you what, I have to take the break, so let's take the break and we'll soon come.